Hi, how are you?
Good. How are
Everybody.
you?
Good.
Hi.
Oh my God, Bobby Hundreds?
Oh my God, it's Michael Shinoda, MS.
What's up, Bobby?
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Hi.
Hey, Latashá, how you doing?
Good. Good.
Oh my
Andre.
God, is that RAC?
RAC.
Who? RAC? RAC?
That's
Is
RAC.
Rack?
RAC.
Oh, are we live right now?
We do an intro, but I think this works even better. So let's just jump right in. We've already adjusted to this environment. And without further ado, let's talk about how Ethereum is for artists and how this ecosystem is and can't do. So RC has graciously accepted to moderate this chat. It's not really a panel, it's more of a conversation and a hangout with all of you here. So I'll get out of your way and we'll spend the next 45 to 60 minutes just talking about what has been exciting in this space. So we'll take it away.
Well, thank you. So I got asked to moderate this about 2 minutes ago, so I'll do my best. If you guys can help me out here, I would greatly appreciate that. But no, I mean, I think there's obviously like a lot to talk about here. I think we all kind of see the potential in Ethereum and blockchain and NFTs and all the fun stuff that we've been sort of hearing about for the past like month and a half. But I think maybe pretty typically, I think we maybe should just do some quick intros, maybe just brief bio.
Start with
Well, I think you just nominated yourself. So
myself. Oh God. I'm Mike. I started a band called Linkin Park. I had a side project called Fort Minor. I actually grew up playing piano, and I thought I was going to be a graphic designer and or illustrator, like a visual artist. And then the music thing just took off. Been into crypto for a few years, been into NFTs, like not super early. I feel like I was like kind of becoming aware of it on the earlier side of when everybody else became aware of it. Certainly later than Andre, for example, who was like one of the first people I contacted. And I was like, okay, tell me about this. What's going on here? And the community has been super welcoming. I think we should talk about that too. But yeah, I've got a few NFT projects lined up for the future that I have not announced. But the one that people do generally know about is I have a new single called Happy Endings, which I debuted as an NFT. It was the first major label song debut with an NFT.
Latashá, do you want to go next?
Sure. What's up, guys? My name is Latashá. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, but now I live in LA. I am a singer-songwriter, rapper, producer, and artist. Just all around kind of creative. I love to just do all types of shit that I want to do. So got into NFT about a month ago, honestly. My boyfriend actually put me on. He's been doing it for like almost 3 months now, and got into it in a month, but it like just went really quickly. I've already sold like 26 NFTs in about like 3 weeks, which is crazy. And just been really grateful about especially the community has been so amazing, along with the fact that I make music, but I also make like these visual pieces with the music. And I'm just so happy because the music industry has been a place that I've tackled with for a while, and just it's nice to have a new space for my work and allow myself to be multifaceted and stuff. So yeah, that's me.
26 NFTs is impressive.
Thank you.
It's actually amazing.
I'm hoping today it's 27 because I just dropped another one. So let's see what happens.
I mean, I don't know many people who've been able to do something like that's a lot. And
yeah,
for it to work, yeah.
It just kept happening where like one dropped and then it sold, and then the next I was like, all right, let's keep going. Let's see what happens. And in 3 weeks I was like, oh my God, I'm up to like 26 NFTs gone. This is nuts. So
how did you? I know I need to introduce myself, but before I get there, I'm just because I'm so curious about you and your work. How did you build traction with your audience? Did your endemic audience already understand NFTs? That seems to be one
No.
of the hurdles with my community, is that it takes a lot of education. We're all still learning, but
Yeah,
you know, so,
totally.
but for you, what was it? Yeah.
So honestly, my community is all like, they know hip hop and that's all they know. So like it wasn't about the community. It was really like, I think the Black crypto community was really supportive as soon as I got into the scene, and was just pushing my art and just buying
Yes.
like collections like very quickly. And so
Yeah.
it was just beautiful. And then Zora was also really supportive, like out of the gate. They just like really was like, yo, we love what you're doing, just keep going. They minted my first piece for me, and it was just like just a lot of love out of the gate, and I'm just so grateful for it, because I was like, I don't know what the hell is going on, but let's get it going. But yeah, and you know, I talk a lot on Twitter. People know, like, I'm always like, you know, bigging up Black women on Twitter and just pushing Black women crypto. So like everybody's like, word, I'm about to buy everything Latasha's talking about. So it's been really dope in that scene. So I'm really grateful for that.
I love it. I love that also pushes against this narrative constantly that crypto and NFTs are just about these white male, whales.
We gonna get there, Bobby. We gonna get there, because we got a lot to talk about that too.
We do. I know. I haven't even introduced myself.
Yeah,
but
do
to everyone
that.
watching, I'm Bobby Hundreds. I'm here in LA. I have a brand, streetwear brand. It's almost a couple decades old at this point, called The Hundreds. I do a lot of stuff. I write, I draw, I grew up like the same way as Mike. I thought I was going to be an illustrator, cartoonist. I love reading Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes. And so I thought that's what I was going to do, because I like drawing cartoons. And then I ended up actually kind of doing that. I just do it on clothes. I got into NFTs in December through Trevor. Everybody knows Trevor somehow. He had tweeted something. It was probably around that Beeple auction at the time, which was like kind of the first wave. And I was like, what is this? And, he radicalized me, and then he connected me with Dee and Zora, and then Dee indoctrinated me. And then I was fully in, and spent the first month being entirely confused. I'm still more confused than ever the more I learn. And in the middle of January, I started having some breakthroughs with it, understanding, wrapping my brain around it. I wrote an essay, which a lot of people shared. It was great, that it just explaining what I'd learned and onboarding a lot of people. And then it just started going from there. And February was crazy. It hasn't stopped, not a day goes by where I don't get 30 to 40 texts or DMs saying, can you explain an NFT? Like, what does fungible mean? And I'm like, I don't know.
I love this thing that you did where you told me about you got so many requests that you set up like a weekly Zoom call to just like, yeah. All right, just show up at 12:30 on Tuesday and I'll explain it to all of you. Like,
I'm an asshole, but it still happens all day, right? Like can you explain it? And it's the same conversation. So I just say, hey, Tuesday mornings, 11 a.m. PST, here's a Zoom. Just come in and out, ask your question. Other people will be able to help you along with me. And that, Latashá, I think that goes back to your point about how so much of this is really about community, right? The people who seem to be the most successful. The reason why Beeple's like that is he's built a community over the years. Like, people love him. It's not like he's just some random artist.
Exactly. And Bobby,
yeah.
I totally big you up for the Zoom, because I'm thinking about doing the same, because it's been really nuts just trying to like explain via text like what this is. It's just like, nah. And I've been telling everybody, I'm about to just teach a course, whatever. Let's just do this. I never want to teach a course, but this might be the next thing.
No, I've gotten so many texts that are just like, hey, do you have about 2 hours of your time that I could take to like so you can explain all of this to me? I'm like, I mean, I get it, like, but I totally understand it, because it is a lot to take in, right? It's a pretty broad topic. I mean, crypto alone, without even getting into NFTs, is like already like, a mountain to climb. So once you get into the NFT world, it's like a whole nother side of it that I think it's not only just a technological thing, but it's also sort of like a social thing, and and it's kind of like a movement in its own right. So it's pretty overwhelming at the moment. I think I can say that for anybody even remotely involved in NFTs, it's sort of being
yeah. As much as I complain about it, really the intrigue and the excitement for me with NFTs. I haven't minted 26 NFTs. I'm not even really much into trading and doing that yet. I'm just really fascinated by the conversation. I love just talking about it. Even with a lot of the naysayers, I'm like, Mike and I are on a thread where we have a friend of ours who's really against it.
I love that thread so much because he is so he totally understands what is exceptional about this moment in time. He totally understands the technology, and he just doesn't subscribe. Like, he's just like, yeah, I people are doing this, people are going to be doing this, and he's right about all of it. And he's like, I just don't like it. I don't like the idea of, like,
that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, his thing is like, here's his, I think, what do you think his biggest beef is? It's because of all of the whales running away with the headlines. Is that really
Yeah, I think he's really caught up with that. That it seems to be just this cash grab. A lot of, the argument that a lot of people are going to get hurt in this process. It's money laundering. It's a pyramid scheme, like that one. Sometimes he brings up the climate stuff, which is of course incredibly critical. But I think to him it's more, and not to call out Anna, Mike, but Mike's wife also, she sums it up the best way, which is, this is stupid. Right?
We had that conversation. So Bobby hit me up. Was it November? You hit me up and you're like, hey, are you guys paying attention to this NFT thing? And I didn't respond to that because I was like, I'm hearing stuff. Like, I got to wrap my head around what's happening. And then when we finally, like in December, I think you're right. I think it was about December-ish.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so like, do we get involved? Like, who should we talk to? Because there's some exciting things going on. And my wife was in the conversation too. She's just like, she was at that first stage of, why would people pay money for that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, this is stupid. How do you guys reply to that?
Here's the argument that I like to make is like, okay, not everybody buys art. A lot of people buy art from IKEA, like, and they're happy with that, and that's fine.
So true.
If that's what they want to do and fill up their walls with something like that, that's great. Mm-hmm. I mean, but some other people really value high-end art, and they exist in their own little world. And I do understand, like yeah, a lot of the money, it's pretty. The headlines are coming from like the big whales, right? But I actually think that there's sort of this, if you look a little bit closer, there's like a whole generation of artists that are being sort of elevated by this that weren't being served by,
their other spaces.
Yeah, the visual artists,
like Latashá.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You guys see? Did you guys see the pack, the title collection?
No.
I don't. Well, I remember seeing it, but I don't remember the specifics now.
I got reminded because he quoted a Linkin Park lyric the other day. I was like, oh yeah, who's that guy? So he did this. He did this collection called The Title, and if you look it up, it's basically the exact same image with different names, and the name referred to itself. Like, so there was one called The Cheap. Mm-hmm. They're all the exact same thing.
I remember this, yeah.
And it's $500. One's called The Expensive, was $10,000. One's called The Unsold, which he didn't sell. One's called The Lucky, which was $1. Like, they each have a thing that refers to what they are. And what it did was, what was so revealing. I mean, it basically focused its essence itself on what was really important, which is, what's the concept of the thing and what will you buy it for?
Exactly.
And the image was inconsequential. And like a lot of good fine art, like it ruffled feathers and made people uncomfortable. Like, have you ever heard of, it's like the banana with the duct tape. Like, people went like, I don't understand why anybody would spend so much money. The banana's going to die. Like, because it's not about the art. Like,
exactly.
Sometimes you buy a piece of art because it's beautiful and you want to look at it. But other times art is not about that. Art is about the concept,
the story,
or just the rarity.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
So-
like that's also another reason why so many people have been gravitating to like certain artists, is because the story there is something they've never heard before, right? And that changes everything for people. I know a lot of people are like, word, like I see what happens to women in hip hop, so I want to support what you're doing because you're telling that story for so many other women in not just hip hop, but in music and art and everything, right? So that is so crucial. And I agree with you, Mike, like totally.
Well, by the way, and when it is about the visuals, like Latashá, I see your, like some of your work. Part of the story is you as a creator and as an innovator, right? So people are buying, part of what they're buying is that as you as an idea. And then the other part of it is that the visuals just look great. Like
Exactly.
they don't have to not matter. Sometimes they matter a lot. And in your case,
Yeah.
I feel like they matter a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you have to have both to me. Like, I feel like the visual got to be dope and the story got to be dope if you want to get something like, you know, important out there. So, you know, that's the crucial part for me right now.
It's a new medium, right? And that's how I'm thinking about it personally. It really is a new art form, and like Pac is a great example of sort of applying concepts that really only make sense in the NFT world. You know, there's not really an analog that you can't do that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like he did this other fascinating project, which again kind of ruffled some feathers. I think he's becoming more of like a conceptual artist at this point, which I think is cool. But he did essentially took Michelangelo's I forget the Sistine Chapel, like famous piece, whatever. But the ET moment, and so he took each like individual block and then reprocessed it through an AI, so it was a new work technically. And then sold them by parts, and it was interesting to see like which parts people wanted to buy, and of course like the finger, everybody went for that one. You can imagine what else people wanted to buy, because there's some nudity, but like, you know, obviously there's some blank spaces that were like, you know, who's going to buy a blank space because that's not that interesting. But again, like fascinating concept, and using the technology as like a new medium, a new art form, and approaching it from that perspective. And I love that. I think that's what's so cool about this is like net new. We're not trying to replicate exactly what's been done before. It's like something completely different. I mean, I didn't even introduce myself, but Andre, musician, tech addict. I don't know. I love all this stuff. I've sort of been involved in the Ethereum world for a long time, but you know, when I decided to sort of approach the NFT space, I'd only really seen visual art, and I was like, okay, this is fascinating, but like, how do I, as a musician, even approach this? And the closest example I could think of is like, okay, when I go to a museum and look at a piece, you know, I'm there for 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute, depending on the piece, you know, and then I kind of move on to the next one. So I was like, okay, how do I apply that to like something that you consume digitally on your phone or on a screen? And, you know, the idea was like, okay, a 30 to 45 second loop of, you know, of sort of like a diorama, like a 3D space with music, and you're sort of setting a tone. Like that was kind of my approach to it. And this is something that can only really exist as an NFT. It can't really exist as a painting. It's not a painting, you know. It can't exist on Spotify because then it doesn't have the visual. You know, it's kind of a whole new medium, and I think that's what's so exciting to me. And I don't know. I'm curious if you guys like think about it that way.
There are a couple of things that I keep coming back to. I'd say there's two things to me that I keep coming back to. One is that when I was in school, I went to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, and I studied illustration. And as part of that, we had to take we had to take some other classes in different disciplines, you know, required classes. And I remember taking fine art, certain really, really abstract conceptual fine art classes that I did not want to take. And one of the things that drove me crazy about them was that it was all about concept, and it was always come up with your concept first and then the medium secondary. Like express your concept via whatever medium is appropriate for the expression of the idea. So in other words, if I have a cool idea, I wouldn't go straight to a canvas and paint about it, because the idea there's no connection in a case of, if my idea is about, for example, coming out of quarantine and people feeling like socially awkward coming out of quarantine. Let's say that's my idea. Like, at its core, that has nothing to do with paint. That has nothing to do with a canvas. So that class, they would challenge you, okay, express that idea in a way that's more true to the idea, not true to the thing that you do. I think that the NFT space actually opens the door for a lot of that the idea of a file of any kind that you can create being, that you can play with rarity and play with value to whoever it touches, like, they have a connection to it somehow. Like, I love the idea. Right now we're seeing a lot of like, this is a video, it is being sold on an auction. Like, I think later we're going to see it being authenticated, the item that is being authenticated and is being offered in a rare kind of way, not just be a movie, not just be a song, not just be a text file. And the other thing is just that I also keep trying to think of that through the lens of Web3. I keep thinking of it in terms of like, how do we do this in a way? We're also sick of huge corporations being in between us and a fan, being in between, wedging themselves into a transaction, turning us or using us as their commodity, as their widget to sell against ads. And how do we do the first part while keeping our eyes on the ball of the second part? Was that too much?
No. That was great. I guess like hearing you talk about this, it sort of reminded me of like sort of like how this really kind of changes how we value things, right? This idea of, I mean, yeah, like our industries, especially in music, is sort of rife with middlemen and different services that take like pieces here and there and sort of dwindles it down to like not a whole lot left at the bottom for the artist. And what I like about this, I think there's a couple kind of main things that this changes is like, shout out to Zora, I guess, once again, because like, I think they kind of came up with this concept, but that, essentially like on the internet, early on, like information sort of wants to spread out, like wants to like move to the edges, like information kind of like wants to be free, like it feels like that's sort of the natural state of it, is that like people want to access content or music or art, whatever it is, and it just wants to be free flowing. And the way that we've monetized it, Mike, what you're saying about like ads and like that's sort of like adding friction to it. Is like, okay, well, this is our thing, we're going to charge you for it, or we're going to add this inconvenient like weird thing on top of it. And that's been kind of the model for like 20 years, or 20, 25 years.
How much will you put up with?
Yeah.
Right. That's a very negative way to approach. I'm not selling you something because you love it. I'm monetizing your discomfort or your annoyance. Crazy. That's a crazy thing to do, but it works.
Right. It works on some level, but I think it's like showing its cracks with certain types of industries. I think music being one of them, art being another, and I mean, even to some degree, news, and it's sort of distorting that, right, on multiple levels. So I think, I don't know that NFTs are the answer for everything, but it kind of fixes a lot of that, right? Where it's sort of just it's saying is like content should be, or data should be free flowing, should reach everybody for free, but that ownership at the top should be scarce for the creator or for a bidder, or whether it's a group of people, or so it's a very interesting sort of way to monetize, I guess, like, because it doesn't require you to set up a paywall or it like there's no friction there. It's sort of like I mean, I think a lot of people get caught up with this, right? Like, this is the point. It's like, why would I want that? What I don't value that,
But there's also this overlap, and I want to ask Bobby specifically about this. There's this overlap with musicians and concert tickets, the way they're scooped up and resold, and that's the same thing that's happening in the secondary market with fashion, right? And other things. So there's a mechanism in place with an NFT that addresses that. The creator can set a percentage and continue to make that percentage. And if you go in, you know, if it's auction style, then the audience will decide the price, and then it'll hopefully continue to move. And the creator of that, I mean, if you can imagine, like I loved that the Nyan Cat creator like sold his, I thought it was worth more than what it sold for personally, because
Same.
it's a world famous joke. Like it's a world famous piece of art and
cultural artifact, right? Like
cultural art. It's perfect. Yeah. And it's going to continue to get passed around because everybody knows what it is.
Right?
Yeah. That's one of the most compelling parts to me about NFTs also, is this idea when people say, well, everyone has that. I'm like, that's actually what makes the NFT more valuable. The more visible it is, the more it's been seen and saved onto somebody's desktop or screen grabbed on a phone, it only makes it stronger that someone has the original one. The Mona Lisa is always the example everybody uses, but there's a copy of that everywhere. Everyone has one in their computer or their home, at an IKEA. And so when you see the actual one, it means so much. It's like seeing a celebrity. It's like seeing Mike Shinoda, right? Like I've seen Mike Shinoda so many times, right? Music videos, on the award stage, there's photos, there's billboards of him. And so when I see the actual Mike Shinoda, it's like, holy crap, this is him. This is the one of one Mike. And Anna owns him. But I don't know if that was the right way to look at it, but that seems to make sense in my head. I have a question for you all, which was, when I talk to people who are really deep into this, people like Trevor, right? This person, Trevor, that we keep talking about, but people like Trevor or some of the guys who own the platforms and the artists who've been doing this for a long time. It's actually not even, NFTs really aren't about what's even happening right now. It's almost like this is the gateway to get us to where we're going. It's like, this is what we need to do to crack people's brains open so that they can kind of understand the blockchain. Because up until recently, I still don't get the blockchain, but yeah. I didn't understand and I didn't really care, right? Because there was no way to really use a lot of this crypto and it just didn't seem very practical to me. And I couldn't imagine what life would be like inside of this screen every day. And so the pandemic accelerated that because we spent so much time on our phones, but also NFTs really helped me to see what it was like, what Andre has been understanding about the Ethereum blockchain for many years. Something about that captivated you early on. Like for me, it didn't happen until NFTs, and it seems to be a lot of people onboarded and joined, in because of NFTs. And so it's like, was this just as usual, art and culture and music, right, are always on the front lines? That's what gets people to enter into the next space, right? When you're gentrifying neighborhoods, the artists do it first, and then people follow the artists, right? So we're like gentrifying Ethereum blockchain.
I mean, to be honest, like I've been involved with this since 2017. So it was a lot techier early on, but like it's a very interesting subset of people because it's a lot of tech people, but they love art, and that's why I think it actually made sense in hindsight. The NFTs were the thing that really kind of made this a little more mainstream versus just like an investment vehicle, which a lot of people had viewed crypto as that. And that was sort of one of the biggest misconceptions about all this stuff is like when you talk about crypto, people assume you're talking about investments. I'm like, no, there's actually like a whole platform that you can create like entirely new systems of coordinate. Like the thing is, it's so big that like it's really hard to like keep it to not be hyperbolic about it, because you're like, you can run the government on this, it's like like you can go there, but obviously that's not going to happen overnight or anything like that, but you know what I mean, like it's so I think NFTs are actually, even though they are somewhat complex, it is like that first kind of like, oh, okay, that I get that makes sense, scarcity. Okay, right. I don't need to understand the technical stuff so much. I don't need to worry about blockchains and whatnot, but like ideologically, I understand what's happening here, and I like it. I think that's cool. But like the whole thing about it being like a sort of an open platform for me was the North Star for me. It's like, okay, this is amazing. It's like set up right from the beginning, because, you know, in music especially, it's, you know, there's 3 labels that run the world, and
always a
and
gatekeeper.
yeah, and they just control a lot, and what I like about this is that it's not really, it's like, I don't think it's going to replace them overnight or anything like that, but it's like basically every service that exists out there could potentially be replaced by code. And that's kind of a scary idea, but also like kind of fascinating, because like if you think about it, like nobody's safe.
Yeah.
So it makes, I don't mean the artist, I don't think, like, I'm not really worried about that side, but it really, like, all these services and all these like applications, you know, the financialization or the financial side of it, which I think is maybe the more hostile side of the music industry, could be essentially replaced by your fans or some kind of other mechanism. So like, to me, I find that to be like the ultimate leveling of the playing field. So like, now they have to compete with zero. They need to compete with code. You know what I mean? So it keeps them honest. It's like, okay, now you're a label. Are you going to take 50%? Maybe not. You know, maybe you're only worth 25% because you're more of a marketing service, you know, at this point. Like, maybe they are worth 50%. I don't know. Are they worth 80%? Probably not, you know.
So how are the labels responding to all this? They seemed a little late. The people that I do know at labels, they caught on very late. They're scrambling. There are a lot of the people that are hitting me up like, can I ask you about NFTs real quick? Yeah. But what are they doing in response?
A lot are hitting me up like all the time now to just find out what I'm doing. It's a joke because a few months ago, nobody was hitting me up. And then all of a sudden I got into NFTs and like all these homies are like, yo, what's good, Latashá? Where you been?
Back then, you didn't want me. Now I'm hot. You're all up on me.
You
Mike Jones.
Like, hey, do you have 2 hours of your time?
Yeah.
All day with the 2 hours of your time. So yeah, I've definitely been noticing more labels are interested. But I also feel like they're interested because they want to figure out how to, you know, leverage this on their side, you know, so artists still will try to get to labels. And
so are they scared? Or are they threatened by this?
I personally think some are scared because because this gives the power to the artists. You know what I mean? This like gives the power, the worth, and the integrity to the artists. And most artists
the integrity.
Most artists are fighting for that, to keep that. I know for myself, I've been doing music for like 8 years now, 5 years like professionally. And most of the time that was what I was fighting for my creative integrity, to keep like my word and keep myself intact, you know? And I made choices where I didn't go to a label, but, you know, was hurt because I didn't have the money to pay for shit or deal with shit. And now I got into NFTs, and like in 2 weeks, I made the money I probably would have made getting signed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like a whole different game.
Just the same thing happened to me, where I did a drop just recently on Maker's Place, and I made more on that drop than I did my entire last 2 albums, on a very well-respected label. You know, we put a lot of effort into it. Like, I made more money in 2 days than the entire thing.
That's like, I think that in addition to, there are certainly the folks from the labels who are scared of it, because just like anybody, things that are different and new and unfamiliar are scary. There are also folks that understand it or are starting to understand it and are trying to be strategic. And one of the things, they're not scared of it in terms of like, oh, it's different and I don't understand it. I think one thing that I always tell young artists is that if you're in an existing relationship with a label, then and a new delivery model, like meaning a new way to get product to a fan, shows up, and there's no precedent for what the economic splits should be. So if they're used to, like Andre, you said, if they're used to 85% splits, you get 15, they take 85 because they have so many employees and they do such important work. And without them, you wouldn't be anywhere, right? And the starting point of the conversation is, I get 100, you get 0. If that's the starting point of the conversation, that is terrifying to them, because they're just like, well, we're we certainly have, okay. And I'll say this, like for them, if I'm at a label, I'm thinking, well, I do have value. Like we do a thing. We do when we could certainly help make your NFT drop bigger than you could on your own. There's a totally, like, look at Warner Records. They have a worldwide infrastructure, tentacles in every single country in the planet.
Right.
And they could help make your drop really big. And for that, like the question mark is like, the question is like, for what do they spend on that? And what do they make on it? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know. So when I did, for example, when I dropped my new single Happy Endings as an NFT, we did 10 limited edition. We did 1 of 10, 2 of 10, that type of thing on Zora. And that was it. And I have co-writers on the song. I have 2 other vocalists on the song. Disney is in the mix. Like okay.
What?
So we got Warner, Universal, Disney, publishers, etc. Like, I just went to them and I said, look, here's what we're going to do. If you're okay with it, just give me the green light to give all the money to charity so we don't have to work out splits. Let's just look at this as an experiment. And if you green light it, we're going to watch how it tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really, the major holdup is they're going to at some point say, like, if you sell an NFT, the industry standard is we take this much, and they don't have that right now. And they're trying to create that.
Yeah, exactly.
Young artists are the place where they're going to go. They're going to try and do deals with 100 young artists and say, 50% fair, right? And you're not, if I say no, you're going to not let me release it. So I guess, and then they're going to go to the big artists and say, we take 50%.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, like even back when I was signing my deal with a major at the time, you know, I sort of, you know, I was aware of what I was getting into, but also it's like, I mean, these rates are ridiculous. Let's be real, you know, like 85 or 80% is like toxic.
Absolutely.
to put it. But then again, like the argument is always like, well, you know, Michael Jackson got that, or, you know, or Prince got that, or like, you know, literally any other major, David Bowie got that. And it's like, who are you?
But they all were upset about that shit. Like every single one of them were upset about it.
Of course. Nobody's happy with it. But it is a lot of like, well, this is how things are done around here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even with small labels, like I did a small publishing situation last year just to test out the waters, because my whole thing was like, I'm from Brooklyn, Jay-Z is my guy, like, you know, I'm not signing nobody as long as I can, and I'm gonna hold all of this integrity forever, you know, whatever. So I was like, let me just try this publishing thing. And, you know, I had a bigger name than even the publishing company did, right? Like I had like more clout, I guess, if we want to call it clout. And the label still tried to pull the whole like, no, this is what you're gonna get because this is the standard. And I'm like, you guys are a small publishing company. You guys have no kind of like push, like I could probably push myself. I'm doing this kind of as a favor. And they literally told me my sweat equity didn't equate to their work. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me right now. Like, I remember battling this, like for like the whole pandemic, being pissed off about this pretty much. But that's how they run. And then when I found NFT, I was like, oh, well,
bye.
There goes my resolution.
See ya.
What,
you know?
It's like, I mean, I don't know if restaurant is the right analogy, but what if it's like, you know, so the economics are different, right? If you're a small artist, if you're a small artist making more per unit, you make 90% per unit or 100% per unit or whatever, and you only have to sell, this tiny fraction of the amount of units in order to make the exact same amount of money.
Exactly.
And there's then so many artists can be successful because the label monetizing against like volume. Like you have to sell, look at the Spotify streaming numbers. Like everybody hears about these numbers about like, you know, you streamed 5 million, your song streamed 5 million times on Spotify and you just collected a check for $10,000. Like, congratulations.
Right.
Right? Like that, those economics suck. No artist likes that. The labels and whoever else is making money, Spotify themselves, taking all of that money to do all of the things they do. It seems so efficient. to do it the other way, right?
Right.
And if they can provide a value, if anyone in the equation can provide a value to take you from, I said the restaurant analogy may be wrong, but like it just popped into my head, to take you from, hey, we're a single mom and pop taco shop in LA to, okay, we're going to franchise, right? We're going to go bigger. And now you're going to need more staff and more infrastructure. And we're going to help you do that. So we're going to share in the proceeds of expanding your business. Like, to me, that starts to make more sense, that everybody's got, everybody's on the line for some part of the value and some part of the take.
Yeah, that makes more sense, definitely.
And I think it'll actually like generate better art. You know what I mean? Because the scale is like a more niche artist can thrive in this environment that caters to, like, I mean, if you're into like hardcore, you know, techno or industrial, whatever, you know, noise, like some kind of very niche thing that there's like a strong fan base for, like you can thrive in that and not even worry about, you know,
all the
reaching
competition that you're dealing with. Absolutely. I
So,
feel like that for sure. I feel like being like, I was doing, I mean, I started out in rap and hip hop, and being a woman in hip hop is all, you know, you guys all hear the jokes and the stories and the trauma that women deal with in hip hop. And so when I got into this, I was like, oh my God, a safe space where I could just like be myself and like create whatever the hell I want, and people fuck with it. If they don't, all good. You know, it's still, I'm being me, and I get to like create my own platform in this way. And then people are all like excited about just NFT period. So they're like, word, you know, this is like a whole new world. I'm going to be the first, you know, that's a whole thing that people are hype about. So it's been really amazing to just feel like myself again in this world, you know?
I tweeted something kind of along the lines yesterday, because this week we are seeing this crazy story unfurl about these Asian American women who were murdered, right? Yeah. And so I'm very sensitive to the race talk right now, because now the spotlight's on our community. And I realized that much of the appeal of NFTs, which was also what attracted me to the internet to begin with when I was like 15, 20 years old, was it was a place where I was outside of my body, right? Like I wasn't being judged on my gender, my skin color, my anything. And it was just my soul and my art and my ideas. And it wasn't influenced by anything that I was wearing or, you know, the color of my skin. And so I think we only have a few minutes left, and I didn't mean a hard pivot, but Latashá, earlier we were talking about how there is this perception, this misconception of NFTs being this, you know, billionaire tech bro-y douchey guys on Clubhouse. Yeah, like that's all it's about. And the representation part of this is so important for me, right? Like the reason why I didn't get into crypto earlier was because I just felt like it was another planet speaking a language I didn't understand, discussed by people who didn't include me in the group.
Absolutely.
Silicon Valley guys, you know, who are billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg. I was just like, that's that. And I'm down here, I'm a streetwear guy. That's not my community. And NFTs have now been a place for me where, look at, you know, even just on this call, there's 3 people that are of color. Like we have a woman in here, you know, we come from all different backgrounds in the room right now. Like, it's so important for people like us to be out there, like me representing for the streetwear industry and for Asian Americans, like you're a Black woman in music to do. So I think if everyone's okay with this, can we end with this? No, I just wanted you to kind of speak on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really complicated still, because we're still walking into this with a bunch of people who have mindsets that are from those spaces, right? We still have probably racism issues in crypto. We have all the same issues we're dealing with in real world in crypto. It's still here. I'm not going to say it's not here. I'm not going to say, you know, I'm not going to try to make this all pretty and fuzzy, because there's a lot of stuff going on in here that's problematic and complicated. So I feel though, what needs to be like the forefront of everything to change it is the communication. And I say this all the time, especially to Zora. I'm like, as a platform, you guys have to be communicating constantly about, you know, marginalized communities. And you guys have to push that agenda in order for us to change the whole metaverse. You know what I mean? Because that's the problem with our world right now. You know, that's the biggest problem with our world right now. So yeah, when I first got into this and I saw my boyfriend get into it, I was like, what is this? Like, it's a bunch of little white boys putting up like weird art, like, they not gonna fuck with me, like, you know what I mean, like, whatever. But
Bam, Andre, shots fired.
no beef, Andre's cool. I fuck with Andre's work. I've been checking out Andre and Mike's work for a long time, and I love what you guys are doing. But I feel like I constantly am going back to this idea of meaning in the work. And of course, like, I feel it's very important to have arresting work that is just gorgeous. And of course, that's my heart too. But if there's context, is there meaning? Is there story? Are you going to change someone's life with this piece? Are you going to change someone's thoughts with this piece? That's where I kind of sit with everything. And I feel, especially watching so many artists in the Black community start to thrive in this world, I just, and not just Black, but people of color in general find their ways to thrive. I'm just like so excited for what it could do for the future of us. You know what I mean? And one other thing I just wanted to say, I have still noticed like issues with economic issues going on with like people of color art. I feel like a lot of times women of color are receiving like lower end, you know, bids and things of that nature. I've dealt with that. I've seen homies deal with it. And I'm just like, you know, this art is just as integral and amazing as this render core art, even though it might not be a render core, even though it might be photography or whatever, right? And I think, I don't know if I want standards in crypto, but I think we need to start addressing like that all art needs to be seen in this world. So that's where my heart is with this. And that's what I've been pushing for everybody, really.
That was amazing.
Thank you guys.
Latashá, you're the best.
You guys are the best. I'm so hyped for this world, guys. Like, it's gonna change a lot of things for us, man. So I'm just grateful, and thanks for having me.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right.
Andre, Latashá, Mike, this was absolutely amazing. I wanted to ask a bunch of questions, but I was just like, this was going so well that I didn't want to interrupt at all. That was an amazing note, and kind of just seeing through this from hearing you talk from my side, kind of the synthesization of like what I got from all this thing is that it's not just about one or two applications of it. You were talking about a massive first innings of a big transition in power of just the new economy, and how can you not be excited about that? We're getting to share perspectives about artists and musicians and other industries, and they're all coming together. But the underlying theme is that you are putting the power in the person, not the other person managing some other relation. And to me, that is extremely exciting. And you've done an amazing job highlighting that and sharing that perspective from how you've seen the traditional versus what code is really competing on. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. I feel like one thing we should do is we're happy to take on those Zoom calls for you and just give people a overview of what's happening as the developer side or what the possibilities are from a non-technical perspective. This whole weekend is designed for that. And we're more than happy to route this and address any of these things because we think the potential is just way too big here. So thanks again. And
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.